Hey everybody, it's Two Legs. It's the live edition of Two Legs. How you doing out there? It's myself, Tom Hunyadi, Andy Nichols. Andy, what's going on, my friend?
Happy Saturday.
Happy Saturday indeed. And as you can see, we have a special guest with us today. He's a returning guest. We're always happy to have this gentleman joining us, and he is Ted Montgomery. And if you've watched our past shows over the last couple of years, Ted is the author of the wonderful book, The Paul McCartney Catalog, a complete discography of solo work, 67 to 2019. And he is back with his second edition of Beatles Through Headphones, and we're going to be talking mainly about this today. Ted, my friend, welcome back to the show, and it's really good to see you.
Good to see you guys too, and thanks again for having me.
Absolutely. It's always, yeah, it's always a good time having you on and talking McCartney or Beatles, whatever it is, and what have you been up to? I mean, the COVID's been, screwing everybody around, and obviously you meant to get this. But go ahead. What?
I think we talked to Ted like at the height of COVID, didn't we?
We did.
Yeah,
right. Yeah, you did. Like in December 2020, I think.
Right. That's right. That's when we had John, and which seems like forever ago now.
It sure does. Yeah.
Right. And we briefly talked about the second edition here of the Beatles Through Headphones, and a lot of people may not know this is like we said, this is the second edition, and your first edition of this came out in 2014. And let's just talk about that for a few minutes, putting this together, and why does somebody need a book like this? I mean, what was your thought process on doing a book about Beatles, listening to the Beatles through headphones?
That's a great question. I think that their music sounds completely different through headphones than it does over external speakers. There's so much; it's so rich. It's an oral landscape that is it really can't be fully appreciated unless. It obviously sounds great over external speakers. That's what hooked us on them long ago. But the stuff you can hear, the little, the coughs, the laugh, the meter mishaps, just all the funny stuff, the dog barking at the end of I Feel Fine.
Right.
Bring that right up to, the surface. So here's the story on how I thought to do this. I was sitting in my home in suburban Detroit in one summer evening, and there was a tornado warning. I don't know if you guys get that in New Jersey or Arizona, but we definitely get them in Michigan. And so the sirens were going off, and the sky was roiling, and it looked yellow and green and really scary. And so I went to the basement as advised, and I put on Rubber Soul on the headphones. I didn't want to hear the thunder and all that stuff. I started hearing these weird things that I hadn't noticed before. And so I grabbed a pad of paper and started writing down some of the things I was hearing over headphones that I don't remember hearing over external speakers on my previous thousands of listens to Rubber Soul. And I read it and I thought, that's pretty good, actually. I mean, I would like someone to parse this for me. And then I realized, well, maybe I'll try another album and see what I hear. And so I did Sgt. Pepper next. And of course, that's rich, wild stuff. And so I thought, that's probably the whole catalog has a lot of stuff. The earlier stuff, not as much because it was more straightforward. Like,
right.
Please Please Me is all live, you know what I mean? There wasn't much overdubbing at all. And so there weren't like the things I mentioned before, but everything from Help onward had all kinds of stuff like that. And the later it got, the more there was.
Mm-hmm. Now, did it come? So it came later in life for you than the headphones, then listening to them, because I was probably 15. I remember getting the cassette Walkman, and then that's when I really started getting Beatles stuff was on cassette, and I've been listening to the Beatles with headphones since the beginning for me, but obviously it's a little different for you.
Yeah, I mean, I've always been a headphones fan. For one thing, it doesn't bother anyone else in the house.
Bingo. Bingo. That's exactly right, Ted.
Yeah.
I think if anybody grows up in a house listening to Beatles music,
yeah,
you want to listen to it at all hours of the night. You don't want to hear mom and dad saying, "Turn that down." So you're going to plug in and you're going to lock in.
Exactly. Also, it seems more intimate to me. It seems more like you're in the studio with them in a way, more so than just having it blast through your car stereo or something, which also sounds great. I'm not here to say don't listen to it over external speakers. Yes, please listen to it over external speakers. It sounds great. But the headphones really made a difference for me. It wasn't like I'd never listened to Beatles music on headphones before. I too had iPods and Walkman back in the day and stuff like that. But it just on that evening and listening to Rubber Soul, it just struck me how distinctive it was.
Gotcha. How far in? Oh, go ahead, Andy.
Quick question here. This is just on the book title. I have never seen the word peccadillos. I have never seen them. Yeah, please enlighten us.
It sounds like a side to a Spanish meal, but it's just peccadillo is like quirky things. Like a peccadillo, he's got some peccadillos to his personality. He's got some quirks to his personality. So. I don't know why they wanted that on the cover. They really did.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But so, yeah, peccadillos, like, odd things or out of the ordinary things.
Cool.
Okay.
I just needed some enlightenment on that one.
I'm happy to do the language lesson anytime, Andy.
Thank you.
So, talk about getting started on the book. And you got a publisher, right? And you were able to how much time were you able to spend on researching and writing the first edition?
Well, much like the McCartney book, I did it all on the weekends. I'm at a computer in my regular job all the time, and the last thing I wanted to do when I got home at night was go on the computer again, right?
Right.
So I had long days on the weekend, first listening to everything, making copious notes, and then listening again to make sure I was hearing correctly and my notes were accurate. And then I just started writing it up. One of my favorite things about that book is the introduction to all the albums. I really enjoyed writing those because it gave me my first opportunity really to expound on how I feel about the Beatles music and their creative output.
You're a first generation Beatles fan. I mean, you came to them at an early age. I mean, you were born prior to them being on Ed Sullivan, I would imagine. And then you talk about your older sisters too, and I imagine they were Beatle fans as well.
Not as much. They really liked the Supremes and the Monkees. The Supremes because we grew up in suburban Detroit, and the Monkees because it was the hot TV show at the time. They'd sit in their room and they would all play. They all wanted to be Davy. And but I had a friend at school, and my fifth grade teacher, Valerie Smith. I've tried to reach out to her, and I just can't find her because that was so freaking long ago. But and she has a last name that's very common. She turned me on to the Beatles. She would come in with a record player, a self-contained, suitcase record player, right, turntable, and she'd have mimeographed lyric sheets, and we would listen to I Am the Walrus and Penny Lane and Hello Goodbye, and the most florid lyrics.
Right.
And we would discuss what they meant, and we're in fifth grade, and this had a big impact on me. I, of course, had no idea what they meant, and none of my classmates did either, but it was fun to talk about it. It was fun to imagine what they meant. So that gave me my start. But I have to say, and I think I've told you guys this before, I didn't discover the Beatles until after they broke up. So I never heard one of their albums as it was newly released.
Right.
We were all out long after I discovered them.
Right.
So,
But you were aware of them, right? I imagine you would hear them on the radio.
Yeah, I was vaguely aware of them. I wouldn't have been able to list any of their albums or anything, but I recognized Hey Jude and Help.
Right.
You know? Yeah.
Right. Gotcha. So let's talk about revisiting. I mean, the first one, like we talked about, comes out in 2014. You after that, you do the McCartney catalog, and is it because all of this stuff was getting revisited, the remixes starting with Sgt. Pepper, then we also had Love and Let It Be Naked, all that stuff that was coming out, later on. I mean, is that what kind of gave you the drive to update it?
Yeah. Yes, they approached me about doing it. Let It Be Naked is in the first edition because that came out in 2005, I think. Something like that. Three? Okay.
Right, yeah.
And so that was already out there when I was writing the first edition.
Right.
But the remix of One came out in 2015, which is awesome. And
One Plus,
One Plus, right. And then I wrote a little bit about the soundtrack to the Ron Howard film. That was all remixed too, and you guys will get to that when you're in the book.
So, quick question, Ted. I know you in the book you preface how you use the core 13 albums as as your kind of that's what you went by. Did you ever consider, or did you listen to the Capitol American albums as a way to compare, or did you just stick to just the British? I think you just stuck to the British for these, just judging for. But I know you talk about the American albums, but it'd be interesting to see if you did a little comparison, because obviously with those American albums, there's so much more going on in some of those mixes, and the echo and the reverb and a lot of different stuff that's on it.
Yeah, that's true, Andy. And no, I concentrated on the albums as the Beatles intended them. I can't stand Yesterday and Today because it has Yesterday and Drive My Car on it, I think. Or it's got 3 Lennon tunes that weren't on the American Revolver. Yeah. It's just criminal. They're like 3 of the best songs on that album. So they're sort of like bastardized versions. And it was the American subsidiary trying to capitalize on more Beatle product, as you guys know.
Right.
And so
it also had some to do with royalties too. I would imagine I was doing some research on it, and there's just to get off topic for a second about the more songs on there, the more royalties they had to pay out. So obviously you want less songs.
They throw 11 out. They put 11 tracks on there, and they throw the A and B sides of the current single on there too.
Right. So as an American in 1966, you get Revolver. And there are 2 Lennon songs on the whole album. She said, and Tomorrow Never Knows. That's a ripoff. I'm sorry.
It is. It is.
So, I mean, what were your thoughts on these new remixes, starting with Sgt. Pepper?
I actually started, Tom, with One.
Okay.
Because that came out the earliest, 2015.
Right. Yeah, I got that. But I mean, as now the albums are coming out again, what were your first impressions with, say, like Sgt. Pepper? We got the White Album, Abbey Road, Let It Be. What were your quick impressions? We don't want to give all of it away because we want people to read the book, obviously. But what were you thinking as these albums were coming out again, remixed?
I was very excited because I love remixes. Some people don't. And you'll see in some of the new material how I talk about how Ben Montench said, why mess with perfection? Why are they and that's a good question. And another question that arises a lot is, okay, so when you're teaching someone about the Beatles for the first time, what version of Back in the USSR do you play for them? The 1968 vinyl version, the first CD release version, the re-release for I mean, what's the definitive version? And my feeling is, what does it matter? They're all great,
Right?
and
Right.
more choices in that regard. To me, that's bonus stuff.
Right.
I'm not offended by that at all. And the whole idea that it's a money grab. Well, the McCartney and Starr and the estates of Lennon and Harrison don't have to worry about money ever, and so
Right.
I don't think this is a money grab at all.
Their kids, their
It's
grandkids,
not.
and their great grandkids
Yeah.
don't have to worry about money.
No.
They won't. They won't either.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it is
Yeah.
incredible. I was saying
Yeah.
to a friend earlier today about these archivals, as Tom mentioned. In a span of 5 years, we have gotten archive box sets for Pepper, the White Album, Abbey Road, and Let It Be. In 5 years, that is so. If you look at the scale of how the Beatles issued product, say over the last 30 plus years, that is a mountain load of stuff just getting thrown at us that we would have waited. Like, even if you got one per decade, you'd be happy. We got all that in 5 years.
Yeah, and the reason, as you guys know, is they were billed as the 50th anniversaries of each.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. So that was the hook. But I have no quibble with that. I kept up with it. I got my Sgt. Pepper, and I was ready for the White Album, man. And they're all good in their way. You should know that the second edition, and hope this doesn't hurt sales, but does not include Let It Be because I had to deliver it before it was out. So, and that's least interesting, in my opinion, of the re-releases because a lot of it was live. There's not a lot of color in the headphones on that one.
No.
So you talked about the publishers wanting this second edition, and for timeline's sake. So when about was that request to start working on a second edition?
2 years ago, almost immediately after I delivered the McCartney catalog manuscript. So it took me about 2 years, and of course, during that time, I had to wait for Abbey Road to come out, right? And Abbey Road, the remix of Abbey Road sounds as good as anything they've ever done. And I'm not necessarily saying that's my favorite Beatles album, but man, that stuff on the remix is just embarrassingly good.
I mean, it was already a perfect sounding record to begin with, in my opinion.
It was.
Well,
And
the
lack of supplemental material that's on that box set is made up for the fact that it's just sonically just incredible to listen to this remix. It's not as deep as the in terms of the outtakes and stuff as the White Album, but it's still damn good.
And as you'll see in the book, when you get to the Abbey Road chapter, Abbey Road, the original, is the most compressed Beatles album ever. In other words, all the sounds are coming at you at the same exact level. Giles Martin lifted the compression off this, and it becomes this wide, expansive sound. Listen to the backing vocals on "Oh Darling." They're 2-3 times louder than the original one, and they're a critical part of that song. That's what I love about that. Yeah.
Right. Another part of the book, you talk about, stereo versus mono. You yourself, you prefer stereo. Is that something you went through as well? Going through listening to the mono versions and stereo.
I would amend your contention, Tom, to say that I prefer stereo on headphones.
Okay.
Not necessarily over the external speakers, because it's not as apparent that it's stereo. So, but on headphones, there's just so much more to listen to in stereo than there is in mono. There's no doubt about it. The one song that sounds better on headphones, there's one song I can think of, sounds better on headphones in mono than stereo, is one of my favorite Beatles songs. It's "Happiness is a Warm Gun." The bass and the piano are way louder on the mono version. And I listened to all those mono songs on headphones, I got the mono box set and stuff. And that was interesting, but not as interesting as the stereo.
Yeah.
I've got that mono box set too, and I really need to spend some more time with it because they're. I mean, that correct me if I'm wrong, but they mixed them differently too back then. I mean, they mixed the mono differently than they mixed the stereo. I believe.
Stereo was an afterthought that they didn't
It
even.
was
They didn't
totally.
even.
Right.
The engineers did stereo after the Beatles were done with it. They didn't even.
Well, with
oversee
the
any
White
stereo.
Album though, I mean, wasn't that the first one
Well,
that they?
that was.
Yeah.
That was. But even still, mix obviously, as we know, prepared. But it was, that was they had their hands over them. That was it.
Yeah, I mean, and there's few differences here and there. I mean, obviously the biggest difference on the mono White Album would be there's no blisters. I've got blisters on my fingers after at the end of Helter Skelter.
And there's no backing vocals on Fixing a Hole, none whatsoever.
Mono, She's Leaving Home. In my opinion, it's faster. I actually prefer the stereo version. Ted, I think you probably do too, right?
I do too. It is faster. You're right about that. I played that with my brother-in-law, who's a professional musician. And I played them back to back and said, "What's the difference?" And he got it right away.
Yeah.
But also, as Paul McCartney has lamented, he wishes there was an echo on the introductory harp. And I agree with him. It's too echoey.
Gotcha.
This is
one of our listeners. Right here.
No, I have to say, I actually just read your take on this a couple of days ago. Permit me. This is just great. There's really no point in parsing this overly long mishmash of tape loops, recorded conversations, scary sound effects, and Yoko Ono's incoherent babbling. If you listen to it once on headphones, you don't ever need to listen to it again.
Yeah, it's not something I'd play if I was DJing a wedding.
That was my first introduction to Revolution 9 was on headphones. That was the first time I ever listened to it was with headphones.
It does sound better on headphones than mono because there's weird panning, throughout. It goes back and forth, back and forth.
Right. Yeah, very, very interesting. Let's talk about equipment because I mean everybody can get a pair of headphones, and listen to it. But obviously, if you invest in a little bit more money and get a better pair, I mean the experience might be completely different. But you talk about equipment and what have you been using? Do you prefer any kind of a certain brand of headphones? What do you look for?
I've used for years the Sony studio quality brand that has the full cover of the ear. And the highs and lows are so good. There's no noise. It's the model number is in the book itself.
Okay.
And you could still buy that model. And but do not ever listen to the Beatles on earbuds. Please don't ever.
Yeah.
There's so much sound leakage that it's not with the right story. My analogy in the book is listening to the Beatles on earbuds is like watching an opera on your iPhone. So
interesting.
Don't do it.
Don't. Right. What about? I mean, do you talk about actual like receivers or players or anything like that as well, or is it just do you have just the headphones that you mentioned in the book? I mean, do you have a particular? I mean, do you stick with Sony when it comes to all your other equipment as well?
No, not necessarily. I have a really nice receiver and CD player, and I also listen to them. Don't laugh, on iPods, not iPads. iPods.
That's cool. You saw an iPod. All right.
I love iPods. The sonic quality on the late version iPods is awesome, and you can turn it up really loud.
Yeah, and if you still have a working,
I'm talking about iPods before they.
Yeah, the little guys.
Yeah, not necessarily the little. I had the classic iPod, which was
black,
size.
Yeah, there you go.
Right.
But only an iPod, not a phone. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah. I
I
mean, matter of
wish. I
fact, I
wish.
still listen to iPod. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
so
wish they would bring them back. I wish
me
you would have a
too.
dedicated device just to put music on it. I don't, I always tell people, oh, I can pay $10 for Spotify and Apple Music and have everything. Yeah, but you don't own it. And if Big Brother wants to zap it, it's
Yeah,
gone.
you don't own it, right? Exactly.
So,
um, we talk about the unfortunate of of COVID, slowing things down about this. Um, even though we had the COVID and you turned it in, that there wasn't ever a well, Let It Be is coming out soon. Maybe we can add that as well, or was it like just get it in there, get
I'll
it
probably
finished?
do. There's talk that I'm going to do cover "Let It Be" and make sure it's in the e-book version. That's
Okay.
probably the easiest
Okay.
way to do
Gotcha. Okay. Right. So, but you haven't done that yet, though.
it. I am not.
Okay.
Don't pressure me. No, I'm just kidding. Hey, man, the way I figure, if the work entails listening to the Beatles on headphones, that's a pretty good gig.
Yeah. Right.
yeah.
Talk about some of your favorite tracks or your favorite albums to listen to on headphones. I mean, we talked a little bit about it probably being the second half of the Beatles, which would be maybe your favorite, maybe starting around Rubber Soul or so. What are some of the tracks that you really look forward to when you decide, hey, I'm going to play a Beatles record, listen to them on headphones? I mean, what are some of the tracks and some of the albums that you really just love hearing it, with headphones?
Well, I love Sergeant Pepper. It's not my favorite Beatles album, but it's among my favorites on headphones because the bass playing is just so amazing and so rich. And there's a lot going on in every track. I think John and Paul were probably at the height of vocal abilities during that album. When the remix came out, I was astounded by two songs. One was Lovely Rita, which has John's acoustic guitar playing, loud throughout,
Way up. Yeah.
way up,
Mhm.
and it's beautiful. Really, on the vinyl, you can only hear it very well during the introduction. And then Good Morning, Good Morning. The drums and the bass, they're just like ear shattering. It's fabulous.
Mm.
And it really gives a certain urgency to that song that was lacking in maybe previous versions. I like that. Go ahead, Andy. I'm sorry.
No, I was just saying those songs, these remixes, they just pack a punch. That's when you
They
listen
do.
to them. They just pack a certain punch with the drums and the bass. But that's Giles. That's his mo.
Yeah. And also the backing vocals. Almost all, in every case, they're brought up a couple. They're potted up a little. Which is a good call because those were pretty flawless. Listen to the backing vocals on Dear Prudence, sung by Paul's cousin John McCartney, Jackie Lomax, and Mel Evans. Oh my God. The round.
Right. Yep.
Sounds, it's just so loud, it overwhelms everything.
Yeah, it really does.
Yeah. No, I love that period. I love listening to like the Sgt. Pepper era, the Magical Mystery Tour, White Album. Big fan of those three albums on headphones. I used to just marvel, like I would, I'm the Walrus is a big favorite of mine on headphones. I just love those those violins coming in at the beginning, and just hearing them rotate, speak going back and forth, and it's just a lot of fun. And like you said earlier in the show, you just get you just hear things a little bit better than what you would if you were just playing them on the regular regular speakers on a CD player or a record player.
Yeah, later on when they mic'd Ringo's drums, they didn't just put one mic on them; they mic'd them all, like on Abbey Road. The drums sound so much better because they move back and forth in the stereo spectrum rather than being just centered like they are earlier on. And that really gives the song some color, I think.
Right. Yeah, and that's one of the things I do love about these remixes is the bass and drum coming up. You do. I remember when I think we reviewed Abbey Road on my other show, Talk More Talk, and we did notice a lot of that the backing vocals that were brought up too, and that they sounded fantastic.
Yeah, especially uh, she came in through the bathroom windows and
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because that a lot of those tracks they still continue to go as they're like slowly fading, fading, and then you just hear. I mean, you feel like they're just brought up even more, and you can just hear more of the greatness. You can hear the grasshoppers a little bit better, with headphones at the end of she of you never give me your money, So it's just an excellent experience that I tell people, you got to listen to the stuff with headphones. It's just a mind blowing
Oh,
experience.
good. I'm glad you do that.
Yeah. So, are you a fan of do you listen to solo stuff as well? I mean, does any solo Beatles stuff too come to mind when with headphones as well?
You didn't just meet me today, did you?
I know, right? I know. Well, the fans are getting to know you too, So
yeah, well, you know that I did the McCartney catalog, which was a massive endeavor because the guy's been making solo music for 50 years, and you two guys and I had a lot of fun talking about that because I just with a little luck didn't like that. I know
Yes,
Andy loved London Town. London Town's great, Andy. Just that's not my favorite song on it. Give me Cafe on the Left Bank any day.
Oh, yeah.
So and Lennon's solo stuff, yeah. I would say George's, other than All Things Must Pass and his last two albums, Cloud9 and Brainwashed.
Yeah.
The middle stuff is not very good. I'm sorry, it just isn't. It's got muddy mixes. He uses a different producer pretty much every time, and I just
even self-titled 79. That's a pretty good album. Self-titled.
It is. I like the opening tune with Clapton on guitar. Love Comes.
Yeah, Love Comes to Everyone.
That's a great song. No, that is a good album, Andy. Thank you for correcting me on that. I forget about that one.
Well,
I'm gone.
No, but there's very muddy production. Dark Horse production is not very good, and Extra Texture is not very good produced. I mean, but I understand your point. It's a valid point. It's very uneven, but I mean, well, we've got a friend of ours who's writing a book on George Harrison's 70s solo material, Owen Ling, which is coming out soon. So,
very worthy project. I'm not saying that George isn't. I mean, he's one of the all-time greats. Let's face it. He did a lot of really important work. I'm saying that those albums that I'm talking about aren't great. There's every one of them has 2 or 3 pretty good songs on it. Even Extra Texture. I Love You, which is a fabulous song. It's got that Phil Spector wall of sound type thing going on.
Yep.
And also,
well, I mean that song had its roots in All Things Must Pass, so it goes that far back, with Phil Spector, co-producing that record. So, yeah, I mean, obviously that's you do get a sense of wall of sound, like you said on that one. Too bad it wasn't a bigger hit.
Yeah, but then he starts doing like these revisits of his old song, like This Guitar Can't Keep From Crying and Here Comes the Moon.
Comes the Moon, yeah.
And he's got a. I guess I mean he's. It's okay that he's doing that. Those are his songs and stuff, but it sort of smacks of lack of originality in a way to me. But I mean, I'm a George Harrison fan, and another great one that I should mention is his live album from '91. I think. I got the album, the year wrong, but Japan. Wow.
Yeah, that's
fabulous.
That's a great live record.
It is, and it was. I mean, he was only there for like 10 days. And
right. Well, great band too. I mean, it helps with. I mean, Eric Clapton's band. I mean, you can't go wrong there.
Andy Newmark was in that band, maybe.
Right.
Yeah, Ray Cooper.
Yeah, even I didn't even really mind him going back and revisiting a few songs like Circles and Not Guilty. just obviously he needed songs for these albums, so
Yeah.
but I still kind of enjoy that Not Guilty from the Easter demos over what we got on the George Harrison record. So
Oh, Not Guilty. The full version that they did, like 121 takes.
Right.
yeah,
That is a hot little tune.
it is. I agree. Right.
And that, I mean, to me, that could have bumped Wild Honey Pie or Don't Pass Me By.
Yeah.
Right.
And then Sour Milk Sea too as well. I mean that Lomax ended up getting. I wish it was a George song on the White Album. I thought that would have been a great fit for the White Album.
Yeah, I don't think there was any room, and I think that his 4 songs that made the cut are among his best Beatles songs. I really love Savoy Truffle. That's a fabulous song.
Great song, but you could have put Not Guilty on there and tossed Piggies to the side. Come on.
Yeah, that's true. That's the least significant of those 4.
Yeah, Savoy Truffle, the brass on Savoy Truffle, and the horns on it, so
the
good.
Horns, yeah, fabulous. Plus the screaming guitar. That's one, guys, with in the remix where they brought up all the vocals way high, especially on the line. What's the final line of every verse? See if you can remember it. But you have to have them all
filled out. Yeah, right.
Yeah, that's right. So loud.
Yeah,
I love it.
Yeah, one of the cool things about the book too is that you give times, specific times for where people should really pay attention.
Yes.
To I mean, and that's a nice touch too, because it makes people think that you actually put effort into this book.
Wait, have I got them fooled?
Yeah.
No. That's it was meant to be a guide. Like, okay, Andy, tonight you're going to listen to Yellow Submarine. You're going to open the book to the Yellow Submarine chapter, and you're going to read along as you listen on headphones. That was how I imagined it, and I have friends who have done that, and they've loved it. So.
No, and it's good for people that may have not have listened to the Beatles through headphones for a long time. I mean, and this is a great introduction to get reintroduced into that world, and maybe like you said, you put those times in there, and then you can notice when to pay attention to certain details of the track. It was a great idea, because sometimes you take this stuff for granted, and you don't really always appreciate what you're listening to. You could be like, doing some work. I mean, I used to listen to headphones at work, and because I was busy, you don't really pay attention all the time and notice those little things, like maybe the backing vocals or the dog barking at the end of the song. I mean, sometimes you don't notice that stuff unless you're reminded. So that was a nice touch for the book.
Yeah, well, thanks a lot, and that's really why I did it, to point out little things that you might never have noticed before, and how to excavate them on headphones.
Right.
That you
Andy?
prefer the original version of Long and Winding Road or the Let It Be Naked one. Spot on. Good analysis.
Yeah, I mean, I know Paul didn't like the voice of the choir and the strings, but that song calls for that. I'm sorry, it does.
It does.
The naked version isn't very exciting. It's
not.
It's like he's in the living room playing it on piano. Now, I say in the book, I think that the best version of A Long Winding Road is on Wings Over America.
Right.
Fabulous.
You
nice
that.
And slow, and his vocal is fabulous.
And that's, as you mentioned in the book, is probably how he intended it to be overall anyway. Yeah.
Yeah. And there's horns on it, of course. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. That's worth a listen, boy. I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I enjoy it. It's just a well sang song from Paul. I mean, his vocals. I mean, when we think of Paul, we think about his vocals, and he just really for me, just one of his greatest songs that he's ever sung. is the long and winding road. But I tend to like I do like that Let It Be Naked just to be different, I guess.
Yeah.
Over the original, and I don't mind the what Phil Spector did to it. I just always feel like that his vocals should always be front and center for that song, and not necessarily the orchestration, which I feel sometimes kind of like overshadows it in certain spots.
Believe me, I'm happy that we have both of them.
Yeah.
More egregious maybe is the terrible bass line that John Lennon plays.
Oh, yeah.
Terrible.
It's the
Why
orchestra
didn't they
covers
wipe
up.
that and do it again?
Yeah.
Right. No, yeah, Paul or George could have easily overdubbed another bass line over it. So.
It's not a difficult bass line.
No.
As bass lines go.
It's not. It's
Right.
He's not telling John play the bass part on Rain.
Right.
Right. Or Andrew Bird can sing or something. Right.
Right.
So were you able to watch the Get Back documentary on Disney Plus?
Yes, Tom, I was able to watch that.
Okay. What were your thoughts? Let's talk about that for
I loved it.
Yeah.
And even though I'm a very rabid Beatles fan, you can't watch it in one sitting under any circumstance. It's too much. It's too big.
Okay.
So I watched them in 3 different sittings, each episode, right? 3 different episodes.
Right.
The first one was really depressing and reminded me of the original Let It Be film, even though the color and the audio was greatly enhanced, which really was a fabulous part of this whole thing. The second one, once they moved from Twickenham to Abbey Road, things got so much better. And, they got Billy Preston in, and he elevated the mood, as you saw. And John kind of came out of his little funk. George seemed less pissed off at everyone. And they just got down to work, and they seemed like a good working band. And the third one is joyous. And I when it was ending, I was almost moved to tears because of any good movie, and this wasn't exactly a movie, it was a documentary, but shows movement in the main characters, right? From the beginning to the end. And this did that so well. From a band not getting along well and seemingly on the verge of a very public and acrimonious breakup, to a band that's knocking the crap out of everyone on a rooftop in London. Wow. Every part of it was great. I loved it. I treasure it, and I'll watch it many more times in my life.
Yeah. Yeah, I was fortunate to see it in the Imax theater as well, the rooftop. Yeah, it was. There was a little mishap, during the show because they started it early and a lot of people were coming in late, coming in on time.
Yeah.
So they ended up playing it over again, thankfully. So we got to watch it all.
Oh, good.
And very, very happy about that. But yeah, it was amazing, and listening to it in that IMAX surround sound capacity was really cool.
What did
great
you think
experience?
of it, Andy?
Oh, it was great. I mean, my podcast partner had had a homework assignment for me, so we had to stay up. I had to wake up at the crack of dawn and watch it as soon as it dropped at 3 a.m. So, and we did
Thanksgiving.
On Thanksgiving. No, it was enjoyable, but you are right though, Ted. It's a lot to take in one sitting. You need to break it up.
Right.
Even for us ardent fans,
yes, right,
are passionate, and we can consume anything Beatles related. If we need a break from it, then the average person, it's too much for them.
I wanted to make sure that I stayed ultra focused on it, and I didn't think I could do that over 7 hours and 38 minutes.
Yeah. It was a nice weekend to drop it because of the holiday weekend,
Yeah.
And again, it's shades of the anthology for '95.
Oh man, I ate that up too.
Right. A Beatles C. Don't forget that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A Beatles C.
It was a great experience for sure. However, when you're watching it and you're taking notes at the same time because you want to do your video, because we went live as soon as it was over.
Notes.
Gave our
You were
initial
taking notes at 3 o'clock in the morning. I was, and I
yeah
was watching it. Notes,
yeah
mental notes. That's
yeah.
what that is.
Mental notes.
Well, you know what? I'm very forgetful at times. So I just didn't want to make sure I forgot anything. So
You're good with that.
but no, it was a lot of fun. I really appreciate it, and I get it. I mean, it's a lot more for the casual or the beginner, and you're right, absolutely. Even for diehards like us, every once in a while you had to, felt like you need to step away from it because it's just so much information coming in at once.
Yeah, and it really puts the lie to the well-worn Beatles trope that they were breaking up during Let It Be. Sure, they broke up soon after that, although they still made another great album after that, right?
Yep.
Which is amazing to me. What a productive year 1969 was.
Yeah.
But to me, they seemed like they were just brothers having a few arguments, but also loving it.
But that's the thing, though. They were disagreeing, but there was never, or at least we didn't witness any kind of arguing, yelling at each other. You know what I mean? It was more or less just casual talking to each other. No, I don't agree with that. Or a couple of smart ass comments back and forth with each other. But there was never really any of that threatening yelling or spinning it while you're yelling at the person. There was never any of that really.
Yeah. I'll give you one of the highlights for me, and you guys can share one from you. But it's when Lennon and McCartney go to the studio cafeteria and they're bugged, and they're talking very frankly about each other in a way that you've never seen them do before, and that was fascinating to me.
Yeah,
John's sort of saying to Paul, "You're really overbearing, and if you could put the brakes on that a little bit, everything would be a lot better." And John's even admitting that he's not been fully engaged at times. I love that. It's very candid.
Oh, that was a highlight for sure. Or the whole series was that scene, which was edited down, believe it or not. It was longer, Peter Jackson said.
Interesting question here from Harry's Music Room. Why didn't Linda and Child being in the studio not get the same flack as Yoko being there? Well, I don't think Linda ever asked for a mic.
or a bed.
Or a bed.
Yes.
Yeah, Yoko's sitting on the amps and stuff. And
she also didn't chime in and give her 2 cents when it wasn't asked for.
Right. And she, in a way, she had a functional purpose because she took a lot of photos.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. I thought she acquitted herself well in that film. She was very unobtrusive. She was with her man, and she didn't.
She was seen and not heard.
That's right. Well put, Andy. So in Yoko, even Paul jokes about it and saying, "We're going to be known as the band that broke up because Yoko Ono sat on one of our amps."
Right.
I love that.
Also, if Yoko would have came out as people would have discovered Yoko as a singer first, rather than sometimes her yelling or whatever you want to call those vocals that she does, maybe she would have been a little bit more accepted at first. But first impressions being everything, and then you see her at the Live Piece Toronto, you see her during the the Rolling Stones Rock and Roll Circus. Those leave first impressions, and people don't like that stuff, so naturally they're gonna gravitate towards the negative rather than the positive. That is, John loved that woman and wanted to be next to her at all times.
She was a performance artist, and the Beatles most definitely aren't performance artists. So it's a different ball game.
It's a different ball game for sure.
But I enjoyed watching her too. I mean, it was all part of what was going on at the time. It's a really good snapshot in time. So, in a way, she was a vital part of it too.
Right. Yeah. Kathy makes the comment. London Town are back today for the next remasters. We're hoping, but you know what? no one knows. Okay, people can speculate, but no one really knows until the next one is announced. So hopefully it'll be those two. But
What two? I
you know,
think Revolver and Rubber Soul are next, right?
well, I mean for the Paul McCartney archives.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
London Town and Back to the Egg, right?
yeah. I mean that
I
would be
hope
great,
so.
but again, no one knows really what's going to come out until they announce it. Till Paul McCartney camp announces it. So
You would think
people
that
can speculate.
Beatle-wise, Revolver and Rubber Soul are being
Right,
worked on now, if rumors
right.
are true.
God,
Right.
I hope so, because those will be fabulous as remixes,
I agree.
especially
I
Rubber
agree.
Soul, because some of the original mixes are pretty conservative.
Hmm.
You know, guitar, bass over here,
Right.
vocals, and another guitar over here.
Gotcha.
Move them around.
Okay.
Give me
Right.
the masters. I'll do it.
Wouldn't that be just great if one of us got
Oh,
to
man.
be a part of the team
Yeah.
and get some insight on the process from start to finish, and what an amazing time. Get to spend a little time in the vaults, and take a gander and
Take a few
but
things too.
take a few things.
Steal some towels from the.
Yeah, right. But we're talking about the Beatles through headphones here. This is the second edition from Ted Montgomery. Ted, let's talk about where fans can pick up and purchase the book.
Yeah, you can Goodreads, Amazon, Barnes and Noble, online, all those places online. And if you're lucky enough to find a good bookstore that's still open, you might
Right.
find it there too.
Barnes and Nobles, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah,
One
there's-
comment.
Yeah.
Just
Go
one
ahead.
comment about the book. I mean, we can get it everywhere, but I wanted to say this earlier, but just to close it out a little bit, Ted, I really appreciate, and I think newer fans will appreciate your writing style. There's so many Beatle books to dive into and look at, and we've read most about all of them because we're voracious Beatle readers. But
Yes.
if your writing style is very easy to the McCartney book, this one, you sum up your feelings on the songs in the McCartney one and this one in a really tact, simple way that makes it readable. And we're not sitting here trying to, overanalyze something. You if there's something in a song that you want to highlight, you point it out. You tell the listener where it is to listen to, and they listen to it, and it just flows. We're not sitting here with an 800-page tome on how to listen to the Beatles through headphones. You do it in a concise, clear way, and it's a nice way, a different approach. Because so many Beatle books are like this. This is just okay. You want to listen to it on headphones? Here's how you should do it.
Yeah,
It's a great way it's a great style. So
appreciate that, Andy. I set out to do it in a simple way so it doesn't seem like a chore to read it. Because I've read lots of books that seem like a chore to read. And let's face it, we're talking about rock and roll and not particle
Right.
physics, right? So it's going to be difficult.
Right. Yeah. So check this out. Beatles through headphones. Anything maybe in the pipeline that you're thinking about writing about next? I mean, I know you just got this done. You want to maybe take a little bit of a break, but anything else brewing in that brain of yours? Maybe another book or something.
I think I eventually will do a Lennon catalog solo.
Right.
Like the McCartney one, but
Right.
with Lennon solo stuff. It's a little less expansive because he died when he was 40. But there's been lots of repackages and re-releases and stuff, and his solo career is really interesting to me. His first two albums are among the best rock and roll albums of all time, in my opinion, and certainly among the best solo Beatle albums.
Mm-hmm. Oh, go ahead. Let's read. Does Ted compare his in his book the 1965 stereo mixes of Help and Rubber Soul to the 1987 CD remixes that George Martin did?
No, I used the 87 versions. Just because I was using CDs all along, I didn't want to switch back and forth from vinyl to CD and stuff. And
Gotcha.
I think I covered it. There may be some things I missed by not including those, but that would have been another 200 pages probably.
Probably. Is the Paul McCartney catalog, is that still available to
Sure is,
to get
yep.
on? Yeah.
You
So it's not out of print yet?
No. I think I told you guys, or maybe I put it on my Facebook or something, that it was a humble brag, so forgive me, but it won an award by the Recorded Music thing as the best discography of 2021.
Excellent.
I got
Congratulations.
and framed it and stuff. And so
Nice.
I've never
Love
won
it.
an
Well,
award for anything I've done, so that was a really cool thing for me.
definitely a proud moment.
I want to take this opportunity to thank Paul McCartney, Linda McCartney, Denny Lane, Lawrence Juber, Steve Howe, and everyone else.
Every single one of them.
Yeah.
We got a question here from Mark. Which album do you think is the most radical, Imagine or Ram?
Ram, because it didn't sound anything like McCartney, its predecessor. I think that's the McCartney album, and I think we talked about this, guys, in our interview, that has aged the best. I think it's among his best albums. I love it. Every single song on it. Imagine is, except for I Don't Want to Be a Soldier, Mama, it's pretty tame and pretty poppy. You know, Imagine, Crippled Inside, Oh Yoko, they're really hooky songs and radio friendly, very radio friendly. So, but his first album was very radical, obviously. The Ono Band with the Primal Scream stuff and the really spare arrangements.
Gotcha.
Get into that.
Right.
You guys are in solo music, aren't you?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Inside and out.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love that stuff. Harry's Music Room asking, do you have an Instagram account or Twitter, or you on Facebook? I mean, how do people contact you?
Yeah, I'm on Facebook.
On social media.
Yeah. Can I just send you my contact info?
Yeah, we can put it in the link.
Yeah, put it in the link. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and
so go ahead.
My email address also is tmontgo184@aol.com. I'm totally open to engaging via email.
Well, I'm gonna say that again, Ted. I'm gonna just put it up here. So
Please do. tmontgo184@aol.com. Anyone can contact me. I welcome it, and I won't leave any. I'll respond to everyone.
AOL still, huh?
I know.
You've got mail.
Yeah, they don't do that anymore.
No. That's funny. Well, everybody, please check out the second edition of the Beatles Through Headphones and the McCartney catalog from our good friend Ted Montgomery. Ted, as always, it's a lot of fun hanging out with you and talking about your books and your passion for Beatles and solo Beatles music. And you're welcome here at anytime you want. So if you do get that Lennon book, we'll have you back on again and talk more about that, or anytime for that matter, because you're just a lot of fun to talk with. So we really appreciate you hanging out and telling us about the new book.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys too. You've been so supportive of these two books of mine, and I'm really indebted to both of you. Wouldn't it be fun to sit around in a bar for about 5 hours and talk about whether the Red Rose Speedway is better than
Yes.
I promise.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of the premise of the show, is just, friends talking about their favorite, if it's just too bad it's not a bar.
My sister said after the last interview she watched it, she said, "Man, those guys were, perfect companions for you.
Mm.
Meaning you two guys. Because we're just geeking out on McCartney.
Right, because we speak a
Right.
language. We all speak a language that only we know.
Yeah, right.
That's just
I
it.
wouldn't have it any other way.
Awesome.
Well, thank you everybody for joining us. This has been another live edition of Two Legs, a Paul McCartney podcast. As always, everybody out there have a great day and a beautiful night. I'm Tom. That's my buddy Andy, and down below is our good friend Ted Montgomery. Please check out his books and give him some support, everybody.
Thank you.
Yeah. Take care.